We are here to discuss wedding entertainment. It has become very intricate over the years, and so I really wanted to take a deep dive into options because everybody loves options. So when I talk with couples, the typical thought process, and maybe this comes from them talking with their parents or relatives, is that there's really two ways to go. There's your DJ, and then there is your live band option. And that's not really all that there is. And so I wanted to bring on these two amazing vendors, completely talented, have their own teams, but they are two people who I've worked with multiple times. And I really wanted to have them explain to my audience about what wedding entertainment really is about and how it's not just one or the other, and how all the different ins and outs of it. So, Shawn, I'm going to start with you. Knowing that DJs are a very popular choice, what are some of the tips or facts you wish clients were aware of when approaching a choice of a DJ?
You bet. Thanks so much, Danielle, for hosting this and putting this together and welcoming me and my company to the forum. So DJs, obviously, as a DJ, I think is a fantastic choice. You get to play all the recorded songs by all the original artists and act as the master of ceremonies. So those are a couple of the critical roles, but there really comes down to 7 key categories that I think a DJ plays and why it's important to consider a DJ for your celebration. So comprehensive personalization, be looking for a DJ that can do that. Creative involvement, if you're somebody that wants to have some fun and do something different, you want somebody that can be creative. Event direction, not everybody, Danielle, is fortunate to have a coordinator of your caliber on their day. And so oftentimes when they don't have that coordinator, I have to wear that hat, the event direction hat, so we can circle back and chat about that. Talented spokesperson, so master of ceremonies, somebody that can speak to your guests and make sure they know what's happening and where. Music programming, of course, and Jen's going to touch base about this, but music programming as a DJ is critical because our clients are all different ages. You know, babies to grandparents attend these functions, and we need to make sure we're playing the right music at the right time. Appropriate presentation, and I think of that as the gear and myself, so I need to be appropriately presented in the space for the type of event that we're functioning at. And finally, quality amplification. Basically, that's how does this sound if we're indoors, if we're outdoors, if the space is large, if the space is small, if my group is huge or my group is intimate. So those are 7 key core categories that we should definitely be thinking about as we're looking for a DJ.
Yeah, no, those exact, I mean, that was a very precise list, and thank you, Shawn,
Amazing.
for that.
I am stealing that.
I'll text you offline.
Yes, baby.
Shawn, one other question I wanted to throw out your way while we're still chatting this direction, because actually one of the first weddings I ever did for my company, now not doing on my own because I've been doing this for a while, but for my company, I worked with a great DJ. He was amazing. But one thing I realized halfway into the wedding, when it was actually too late to really do much about it, was he was not an MC. And I think there's a lot of people out there who automatically assume that they're one of the same. So can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess a DJ is not always a master of ceremonies. Many DJs started possibly in their bedroom mixing music and then moved into clubs and friends' celebrations. So they have that skill of being able to mix the music and choose the music. What didn't maybe come along with that is speaking to people in front of a group of people in an audience and addressing them. I was fortunate in my career because I started opposite. I started as a stage MC and then integrated DJ secondary. So it was just good fortune. The company that I worked for needed a stage MC and the DJ component wasn't important at that time. So I think it's huge if you can speak in front of a group and do it well. Make sure that you address everybody in the room, make the event feel inclusive.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good question to ask. How comfortable are you speaking when you're interviewing DJs? How comfortable are they speaking in front of an audience? Will they make those key announcements? Are they going to be a wallflower that just sits behind the DJ booth? And maybe that's okay for their celebration because they don't want somebody, because there are DJs that are very much performers and entertainers and could actually potentially maybe even take over the spotlight from where it needs to be shined. So it's important to figure out what you need and make sure that the service that you're hiring matches that.
Awesome. Awesome. Jen, I'm going to head over to you because I feel like one of the setbacks, at least that I hear from some of my clients about even pondering a live music aspect is, price one, and then two, well, am I going to be able to get all the songs that I want?
Yeah.
So, because they, depending upon age and everything else, or what they really want their wedding to be about, it could, in their mind, hinder from what direction they're going to go in. So when couples, what are some of the things that you find that couples don't realize when they start talking to you?
I get so many different questions from people, just like relating to how do I even start lifting the corner on picking music? And people are guided by so many different things. Some people have to have the cello, and they're just like, I love the cello, therefore all my music is going to be around the cello. Some people have a particular amount of money that they want to devote to this piece, or they have a complete entertainment budget and they want to devote a certain portion of it to a DJ and then the rest to live music. And some people are driven by the desire to hear a certain song that just means a lot to them. Like I had a couple that wanted the Super Mario Brothers theme of all things. Like I get clients that come and they're like, I found you because I knew that you could do this for me. and I usually take on weird projects like that. But I guess my greater point is that, everybody has a guiding principle for what they want out of their music. And I try to offer, options within that. So like, even if they say, I only have $400 to spend on music, well, then you can afford a solo guitarist or a solo violinist or a solo cellist. We can make that work for a couple hours, and a big part of that is mitigating the like big sound production piece, and Shawn, all about this. People don't really get paid for making the art, like I don't really get paid to show up and play my instrument or sing. I get paid to haul the gear and deal with AV and email back and forth with clients and do all the admin and logistical work that's extremely valuable to the eventual outcome. But the reason that, that our businesses have value is that we understand the whole picture, and we understand how to simplify things in order to work within budget. So I'm rambling a little bit, but a big part of that is to simplify the production footprint in most cases. And Shawn, you have to do that a lot too.
Absolutely.
One system or two,
Yeah, no, those are all great points. So if what I'm getting out of you is, it doesn't really matter whether their budget is super big or super small.
Right.
Obviously, like when any vendor is looking at a wedding budget, we always wish that
Sure.
there was, unlimited funds, but let's be realistic, that's not the case, especially in today's age.
Yeah.
But you can, knowing that you have so many artists that you can pick and choose from, and such a repertoire of instruments and talent, even with somebody with a $400 budget or a $4,000 budget,
Right.
are ways of making it work and bring some sort of live element to that celebration.
Absolutely. And I just want to really chime in and say that like DJs and live musicians work very well together. Like there have been so many cases where like for the earlier elements of a wedding celebration, you can have like a trio or a quartet playing the prelude music, the ceremony, and then segueing into a little cocktail hour. Then the DJ takes the baton from there and handles the dinner hour onward into the party jams and everybody going crazy. And even an after party sometimes too. Like what people don't realize is that that the event professionals can really collaborate together, and that Shawn, in many cases, provided super valuable AV support to my team when we had to hustle from point A to point B. That was the case with your wedding, Danielle, that we worked on. He had everything all set up for the band in the main ballroom, created the segue, seamless for the event, seamless for the client. They don't see that infrastructure that's happening behind the scenes. And that's why our businesses exist, so that they don't have to think about it. They don't have to worry about it. And it makes everybody look good.
Yeah. And it's critical to that point, Jen, too, that those pieces, the live musicians and the DJs work closely with the coordinator and the client, because it's great to be able to actually have that break as a DJ, because there's a lot of setup, there's a lot of tear down, and there's many hours in between, sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours. So to be able to have those breaks at the ceremony or cocktail hour or dinner hour are so huge and keep me fresh, so that when we get to the dancing portion of the evening, I'm energized and ready to go, not having just been playing music and setting up gear for 7 hours straight, and now we get to the dancing, which I of course love. So I love there's live music pieces added in. So all great points.
Yeah. And that's such a great point about restoring your energy and conserving your energy, because what people don't realize, and Danielle, you can certainly speak to this, it is a long day, and as you said, like Shawn, sometimes the big climax for whatever piece is like that's much later, when you're starting to really get tired and burn out. So that, being able to have that downtime is really critical. And you have such good team members that have run sound for you. All your guys are so pro that I trust them. Like, if you're off having a sandwich, I know that your guys are doing a great job with my string quartet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do there, not to give away something, but I do a surprise element for my last dance that actually requires some time and attention. And so if I can break away and get 30 or 40 minutes, I can actually create that piece in private while the fabulous House of Cards team is working away.
Oh, bless your heart. Does it involve a costume change on your part?
No costume change.
I was just wondering.
I don't think I've ever seen Shawn do a costume change.
Well, maybe he will now.
My focus remains solely on my couple at the event and not on myself. So.
Of course. That disco ball is just exciting, though. It's like Studio 54 vibes, buddy. I love it.
Jen, I think one of the questions that couples would love to know is how customizable can you guys get, not just from types of music, whether it be quartets, celloists, flutes.
Instrumentation, yeah.
I mean, you guys have just all different types of bands to bring to it, whether it be jazz or pianist or whatnot. I mean, the wedding that you were referring to, I mean, we had all different types of musicians.
We did, yeah.
But if a couple is really concerned about, making sure that they can have a specific song for their first dance or a specific song for, I even found that father of the brides really get into very particular about what they want. And I'm sure mother of the grooms do. I just never had to deal with my mom when it came to that, obviously. So how customized can you make your music?
Well, as customizable as they're willing to do. It's often, as I said, driven by a desire for certain instrumentation. So that's one way to customize, is like a person. I actually had a wedding client, a very high-end wedding client from the Tonkin family, who had always dreamed of a mini Celtic orchestra involving a harp. This is a great example of how I can customize a bigger project. And he had these 2 cinematic pieces, Somewhere in Time, and the one, I can't even remember it now, it was the theme from an aviation film that meant a lot to him. And so he wanted a creative hand in writing the musical arrangement, choosing the instrumentation. We had a string octet mini orchestra plus a Celtic harp plus me singing. And it was, Shawn was there. He was upstairs setting up at the time that we played, but he totally helped me with my mics and stuff. It was at the Portland Art Museum before it collapsed. And that was, that affected us. That affected us too. But the greater point is that a client was able to realize not only his instrumental vision, but his creative vision, because he commissioned these custom arrangements with my people. So that's an example of we created the sheet music from scratch. We created the instrumentation from scratch, exactly as he wanted. We created the soundscape that he wanted. We mixed it how he wanted, and we created the timing elements that he wanted within the piece, so that, forgive my French, but the money shot, as we call it, happens at the right moment, you know. Because let's admit, timing is critical to everything that we do. Shawn mentioned that before, that it's like, it's just part of like moving the event along in a seamless and perfect way. That element, that programming and timing are so, so critical.
Right.
And so like, that's an element of customization too, is like choose a piece within a piece of music, choose a part of that that's going to give you the most impact for your guests and the drama or whatever emotion you're trying to evoke, because that's what music is.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And live music obviously can often do these seamlessly and easy, shorten a song, make a
Yeah.
song go
So
longer.
can a DJ.
Yeah, and DJs can do that, but I like to actually meet with clients ahead of time, and
Yeah.
if they want a shorter mother-son song, we'll go edit that in software so that we bring the final piece at the length that they want it. So if they're telling
Right.
us they want it 90 seconds instead of the 4-minute song, we'll just cut that down, work with the client to find out where it's going to come in and where it's going to go out, and rebuild that track. So we'll try to do
Yes.
something with the recording size where you guys can just kind of naturally do that with the live music, which is another beautiful way to, you know, be able to control the music and the moment. And when the bride arrives, the song,
Yeah.
you know, twinkles out nicely. So,
And what you're saying really is, it means that we are producers. You know, we are actually, we are talent, we're technicians, but we're also producers, and we're trying to produce a moment for somebody and have, almost as you mentioned, like your early background is like stage, and mine is too, and it's like you learn something about being on stage, that timing is so critical. You can't waste a moment, and you're always on, you know. So it's like almost having this persona that you can work with to keep things moving, and it takes time to cultivate that. But it's
That's
worth
why
it.
we are like operations managers when it comes
Right.
to day of. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's one of the things I've tried to drive home in each one of these segments is, you know, we're all critically important. We're all working together as
Yeah.
a vendor team. And, you know, whether it is your coordinator or your planner or your designer, which are three totally different things. I mean, we're all working with, you know, the DJs or the caterers or
Timing.
live bands for timing. Because if you have such an instrumental piece as you were describing, I mean, there's probably some sort of lighting that's also happening.
Yes, exactly. It's a show. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's a freaking show.
It is a show. It's a
It's a
production.
show. It's a production. It's like a stage
and
production.
we don't get to redo anything. It has to be perfect the
First time.
One,
We're all like, "Where's my wine?" Well, not at the gig. I mean, just right now.
yeah, yeah.
Necessary.
One thing I did want to touch on, especially with Shawn, because I kind of go through this with my own, with my clients as it is, and then we kind of intertwine it, is what do you typically go through with your clients? One, when you're meeting with them at first, but two, even closer to the wedding date, when you're really going through what are your selections, what are your timelines? Because a lot of times I grab what you went through with them and I place it into my own timeline, and then we're making sure that based on what they told you, based on what they told catering, what they told photography, and what specific shots that they want from photography too, that all of this actually works. And it's not like we get to the day of the event and it's like, well, no, because they're supposed to be over there and that.
Been there.
Your process.
You're taking all the vendor pieces and shifting those things to find the happy place where they can all align, right? And the client can have what they want, and we can get the most dancing. Jen, what do you got?
Tetris.
Yes, Tetris. Yes, Tetris. So I call that a wedding director script. So I'm going to create a wedding director script for my client, where it's a 3-page document, the who, the ceremony, and the reception, and all the details that are contained within that. So the timing of when things are due to happen, the song that goes with it, and any notes associated with that. So my very first meeting, a consultation, we'll call it, with any particular client is really for me to interview them and for them to interview me, because this is a two-way process. I want to make sure that they're a good fit for me to give up my Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and they want to make sure I'm a good fit for their budget and for their needs. So it's definitely an interview to start. I want to hear as much as I can about them. I often use the word investment. The more someone invests in me or gives to me, the more I become invested. And then naturally as a human, I just give more because I know more and I care more. So that investment is super key to me. And then once they become a client, we'll email and text and have some phone calls along the way. But ultimately we'll get to this 2-hour meeting where we'll sit down and we'll hash out the timing and the key songs, and I'll help them kind of, curate what those songs might be, listen to some music, and then get some feedback about songs they want to hear, songs they don't want to hear, and then anything they might want to hear if we can squeeze it in. And then we'll build that script, get it off to whoever needs that, and then make sure it kind of aligns with the overall, evening, and make sure it's all going to flow and go.
And Shawn, one thing I do, you are very much verbose in what you're able to offer your clients. I mean, when they're hiring you, one, they're getting a MC and DJ, but I mean, you have your own equipment, and not only that, I mean, you take care of if they want oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on what it's actually called, a backdrop for a photo booth.
Photo booth, yeah.
Photo booth.
A backdrop. I obviously need to start producing again because I am losing my lingo here. You provide the photo booth. I mean, you have so much, you do have extra add-ons, whether it be lighting and everything else, and not everybody carries that. So do you want to go into a little detail, a little snippet of what you're able to offer?
Of course, yeah. There are some incredible photo booth companies that just do that, and that's all they do, and that's their specialty, and they're amazing. So we do have a photo booth that we love to bring it if we can, meet somebody at a budget and help bring that along. We do have lighting. We do custom monograms that are fantastic, projected on walls or dance floors or any spaces. And then some special effects. And somebody might be with us here today. Jen and I have a client that we're chatting with. She might be watching right now.
Maybe.
She wants to do Dancing on Clouds, which is a special effect that rolls under the first dance and is just amazing. But she wants to actually take this effect to her cocktail hour, and she wants the machine to run in their space because it's got a very jazzy vibe, Jen. That's why she's going to be chatting with you. It's got a very jazzy vibe. And so she wants this low-lying cloud the whole 60-minute cocktail hour. So that's a very specific request. And
that helps me. Machine. That's going to help me pitch the music to her. Okay, good to know.
So yeah, effects are fun. Specialization is really fantastic. We do some incredible grand entrance production where we pre-produce the piece. I did one long ago with a client. He was a Top Gun pilot. We had the wands. He recorded the voice of the pilot. I was the tower. It was highly produced and
that sounds amazing.
Customized. Yeah, I'll have to share the audio piece with you because it is so cool. We had
huge
TV screens up. Yeah, it was amazing. We had TV screens up, and we actually scripted it so the Top Gun jet was landing every time the couples were making their entry. Like, you can do highly produced and very specific and really custom.
And this is why we love doing
what we do. We all started getting excited when you started telling that story. And I think that this ties in with your number 2 of the 7 of creativity. And it's not just your own creativity. It's the client's creativity. And as I said with my client who created that mini Celtic orchestra with the harp, we help them realize their creativity. And I mean, especially Danielle and you with your work, you're doing it across the board with the event design, selection of vendors, selection of the location, and the styling of the event. So many elements where you're helping, you're using your own creativity and resourcefulness to try and realize a creative vision on the part of the client. And that's where I get the juice from this process, is when I feel like I'm producing. Why does that word just keep coming up? I'm helping to actualize a physical reality for someone's creative vision. And that to me is exciting. And that's what I want to do with my life. So it ties in with my greater goals of just being a creative individual in the world, helping other people actualize their creativity on such a big day too, because it's an emotional day. We're helping these music in particular is such a language for expressing emotion and bringing people together. And that first dance, father-daughter dance, mother-daughter dance, all that beautiful stuff, mother-son dance. Those are markers in our human timeline of connection. And they're so critical, so meaningful. And we kind of help bring out those moments, really actualize those moments the best way we can.
Yeah, and
And
it's cliche, but these are once in a lifetime celebrations that
yeah,
literally oftentimes launch these couples' lives,
yeah,
forward, and just give you that touch point back to reflect upon, because you will experience some tough times. So you'll be able to go back to that day and
yeah.
re-feel and relive that day and just remember how amazing it was. So, and we get to
And
be a part of that.
with great AV there and great videography too, then you have everything that we played at the ceremony, all the music stuff that you customize. You have these great shots from the dance party where Shawn is like playing party jams forever. It's like they have a sense of archiving this experience
Yeah,
because technology is so great right now,
for
and
sure.
and so to your point, when times get tough, they can look back. They have a perfect encapsulation of
Yeah.
this moment in time.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys just captured it beautifully. Jen, one thing I do want to touch upon, especially knowing, you know, they're not just hiring a band when they hire you.
Yeah.
I mean, when I've worked with you, I mean, we had a pianist, we had a string quartet, we had you know, a jazz band in there. We had
Yes.
things going. So
Moving
when
parts.
yes, and the great thing about working with a place like House of Cards Music is, again, there's more than one type of element to choose from, but you're not having to pull instrumentalists or talent from five different places, and therefore, we're not talking about something that is an astronomical cost.
Cost, right. It's
Which I
one-stop
think
shopping.
for
Yeah.
a lot of people. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't like to go too much down the rabbit hole budget, even though I tend to for my own clients, just because
You
trying to
have to.
manage their budget. I mean, it's kind of my job, even
It
though it's
is your job.
always a huge elephant in the room.
Hmm.
Managing what you want versus what you need versus what's in the budget. And
Hmm.
as Shawn just eloquently said, it's the beginning of a lifetime together. So
Yes.
yes, you
Don't
want
cheap out.
this amazing day, but then there's traveling or
Yep.
houses or
Yep.
kids if you want to go in that direction, and none of that stuff is ever cheap. And then
No.
you look back 10 years later and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 50 years later, or however long it is. But can you go into just a little bit of detail of one, kind of like how Shawn did, of the process that you bring clients through, and
Yeah.
also, just some basics that, they may not know about, your.
Sure. So many clients come to me with just kind of like I want music, but I have no clue what I want. I would say that about 50% of people come to me like that. And I say, well, first look at my website, see if it feels like the right fit, because the truth is I'm not the right fit for everybody. I'm really coming from an artistic background. Um, Most of the artists that I represent are very, very high level instrumentalists in the orchestral world, or in the live touring world, and we're all very established pro musicians, which means we're not the cheapest out there. Um, and also, I have a certain quirky Portland eccentricity to me that's maybe not for everybody. But that's what people want in artists, right? I would think.
We should
Um,
just go down that rabbit hole right now while she's talking about that.
yeah, let's go down the rabbit hole. We love that. But I usually ask them, like, as far as a client intake process, I usually ask them, like, what is the most important musical element to you? Is it the first dance? Some people are totally like obsessed with the first dance, and they just have to have a certain song for that. And they have to and it usually ties back to some like really great experience that they had, like their song as a couple. Or a bride has this vision of herself walking down the aisle. She sees the dress, she sees the flowers, she sees the background, and she hears the song. So like a lot of it has to do, like we said before, with the actualization of a dream that someone has always had for their wedding, and it's usually the bride. But that's not always the case. Like, I've had a lot of cases where grooms have taken a lot of ownership, complete ownership over the music process. One of them was actually a professional music arranger, and he hired a string octet and he wrote all the arrangements, and it was all Disney, baby, all Disney all the time. And we did it, so like I said, I always start the process with what means the most to you. It can be a song, it can be an instrument, it can be staying under $500. It can be something like, I really want a DJ and I really want live musicians, but I only have $2,000. How do I achieve that? And then my mind is like, then I'm just offering options. and it's all about cutting here and again, back to this creativity that we all rely on so much. It's about trying to figure out what's feasible with the venue, with the timeline, with the size of the group. Like a bigger group of people isn't going to do so well with a single acoustic guitarist. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the choice of instrumentation has to do with the overall size of the event too. So there's just so many little factors, but I generally, I want to find out what that through line is for them. And then I help them understand how to get there. So the production challenges, like as Shawn was saying, that wonderfully smoky jazz dance floor, what is the expectation versus the reality, you know, and how could we really achieve this given the parameters of the venue itself? Like in her case, it's an old downtown hotel. There are going to be restrictions involved, you know, stuff like that. So thinking through the negatives is part of what we do too, unfortunately.
No, and I think that's one thing that we've tried to voice over the past 4 sessions is it's not only about, you know, getting referrals to somebody, because honestly, like my business is really based off of referrals at this point. It's not even marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do market, but you know, but not only that, like you want to know who the vendors you are hiring, whether or not you drive or not, you know. And the thing is there's so much talent, not just here in Portland, but all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's not just about hiring the most talented priced person. It's about making sure that they understand who you are, that you two jive, and that it's your style, because everybody has a different style. Everybody has a different budget. Mm-hmm. You know, it's why there are, you know, tons of wedding planners out there. There's certain people who and honestly, I also kind of choose my clients too, because if I feel like I'm not really going to be their style, then I'm doing them a disservice.
Exactly.
And Jen, I'm sure that you guys do the same. It's not that we're trying to categorize people, but we want to make sure that what they're getting their values worth, and that we're able to deliver based on their vision, their desire. You know, somebody comes to me and saying, you know, I only have this amount of budget and this is what I need you to do. I know that one is not going to probably meet what I need, and I don't want to just start taking money from them, knowing that there's other amazing planners out there
they can work with
much of experience, or may not be charging as much for whatever reason, and that's their business plan, but that can fulfill that for them, and that I'm not taking that extra $2,000 that they could have put to a DJ, and not to me. No, I don't want to be a disservice, and I think you guys are the same on the same level as that.
Yeah, it's critical, I think, to make sure that you're comfortable. We're spending a super important day in your life with you and your closest friends and family. And I want that to be comfortable interactions where it almost feels natural with that couple. So it's super critical for me.
Yeah, because you're interfacing with family members too, not just the couple themselves, but like, you know, like you were saying, Shawn, before, like, Grandpa's going to be there. We have to have Nat King Cole for Grandpa, and he's going to come up and request Duke Ellington. Be ready for that. You know, like people are going to come out of the woodwork and want something, especially you have a big family. So you get this, like if you try to plan your wedding, you know, everybody's going to have a say. So like
my family's one of those where I'm like, I learned how to have the list of what is not allowed to be played, because
the do not play. Yes.
Request that.
It's a critical list.
Bill, go ahead and do it, because I wasn't video recorded. It was, I got the band. That's what I wanted. I wanted the band.
That was your thing. Yep.
It's a little bit different than here in Portland, so we had to put that money in there. But yeah, no, I mean, I think these are all great points for people to really remember and take into consideration for. Yeah, I mean, the fact is we all, I love when my family, and I'm gonna kid around with my family a little bit here. I get the name of, oh, how's that party planning business coming along? And there are party planners out there, and they're amazing. They have creativity, a lot of them, you know, especially doing, whether it be, you know, your small baby showers and stuff like that. What we are doing is not party planning, we are producing.
Yes. It's like a Broadway show, and you're moving. Here's something I think about a lot that people don't think about. And Shawn, you're going to be with me on this, and you will too, Danielle, is these bumpers. Okay. How we are responsible for moving large groups of people from point A to point B in a very limited amount of time. That it's like the thing that will derail an event the fastest is if you can't get this group of celebrating people who are having a wonderful time socializing and drinking and cocktailing, what they're supposed to do at a wedding, right? You can't get them up to the mezzanine for dinner, or you can't, and you're just like, and that's something that I think about a lot, because music is often a part of that transition, and someone getting on a mic, often me, often you, Shawn, is part of that transition. And then just really like creating those seamless transitions is part of the production element of it that make me think of the stage show. That's what makes me think that it truly is analogous to a stage show, or any performance really, is thinking about those in-between spaces and how to make the guests and the couple never feel like anything's happening. Everything's just flowing into the next phase.
Nobody peeks behind the curtain. We only
Right.
reveal the curtain when the time
Upstairs,
is right.
downstairs.
And sometimes, Jen, a lack of music is the best way to move guests.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Or crank up the Metallica really loud. Just kidding. I've seen it done though. I've seen them put on like Tool, like late at night to get people out, because it's like sometimes people will not leave.
No, I mean, that's the thing. That's one thing that guests and couples and even their families don't realize is, if something is falling behind or going super fast, whether it's, that father of the bride that gave that 2-hour toast.
Right.
There.
Yep.
Sarcastically speaking, 2 hours, but something that should have taken like 5 minutes is now going on for
an hour.
minutes. And you're like, okay, well.
In an hour.
Yeah, I mean,
like the caterer's waiting to serve the.
And the next to me, like, and I'm like, listen, like, I'm not gonna disrupt the father of the bride. Are you?
Right.
But I mean, the three, like, all of us are consistently. I'm talking to the caterer. I'm talking to Jen. I'm talking to the lighting guy who is ready for when that toast goes off.
It's dominoes the whole way down.
Changing that. When those sunset photos are gonna, or, the sun is setting and we're at a time, like, can we sneak out? Do you mind if we do this like in 10 minutes versus in 2 minutes? Yes, but like we're constantly working with all of that.
Communicate.
Yeah, I mean, the communication is super key. We're about 40 minutes in, and I think we've given people a ton of really great information. So what I want to do is, Shawn, I'm going to go to you first and then Jen after. Is there anything else that you think that would be important for clients to hear from you right now? Or do you think that we've covered really everything?
Yeah, I'd say this with anything, with DJ specifically, if you're intent on hiring a DJ, don't be afraid to meet 3 or 4 DJs and feel out who these people are and how they're going to do. Check out the websites, check out the videos. It's really hard for us to invite somebody to another person's wedding or celebration. So we do get asked that, and we're not allowed to invite you to another function. So it's super important that you actually do that interview process with them right now, maybe over Zoom when we can, maybe over coffee or at your home. But interview these people and just have a candid conversation, express everything that's important to you so that they can hear that and understand that, and then decide if they're going to be a good fit for you. So that's one critical thing. And before you sign off on me too, I just want to shout out to all the live events people in Portland and across the country. Guys, hang in there so much.
Yes, we're struggling, but we're
6 months. So hang in there, guys. Yeah, we're still here. We're still hanging on. And to the clients out there, thank you for your patience with us. Continue, please, being patient with us, and understand it's been a pretty challenging time to have almost 100% income loss over the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Before I jump to Jen, because Shawn, I don't think a lot of people, especially those that are listening to this or who might listen to this, realize this, but the events industry in general we've pulled together to really become a community to write letters or to campaign or whatever else we needed. And for those of you who don't know, and I know Shawn is not trying to put himself on a pedestal, but I'm going to do it for him. Shawn has been on the board of the Oregon team, has been spearheading what he can for Arizona and other cities, and, just doing what he can. So Shawn, thank you so much for literally like everything.
Thank you, Shawn.
He's always
Thank
on
you.
top of it. He's always making sure that we know guidelines, and those are different in every county, in every state. I mean,
And
it's,
they change constantly too.
oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
And there's not even like a press conference to let us
Right.
know when they change sometimes. So, and even when they change, half the time we don't even truly understand it without clarifying 5 or 6 points.
Right.
And him and his
Right.
team have been on it. So, Shawn, thank you so much for really, just stepping up and, being such a community leader.
It was that or drinking in the corner by myself for the last 6 months. So I picked the easier of the
Yeah.
two choices.
Well, maybe you did both. I mean, it's
mean,
not that they're mutually
no
exclusive,
judgment.
Shawn. But I really want to reiterate that gratitude because Shawn, you've been such a driving force. He's talking about the live events group that Shawn is part of that is, really they represent nationally our industry to our elected officials in a big way, letting them know that this huge community is out there and we're in a collapsed industry right now. So, we're all, again, back to the creativity, we're all using our creativity. And Danielle, thank you for having me on this panel because this is really, really fun. And I want to my last point is, it really ties in with your last point, Shawn, is that don't be afraid to just ask. That's my message to clients. If you think about something, don't be afraid to ask, because in Portland, at least in the music community, we actually have world-class talent. And there are so many musicians. Portland is a music city, just like Nashville, just like any other city that's known for its music. And it doesn't hurt to ask. You can probably find exactly what you want. And some of the most exciting musical finds are within those interstitial spaces of people that don't necessarily advertise themselves, but I might know who they are. So, so I like being that person. I like being the secret pathway to the really great, exciting artists.
Well, thank you both for joining me. And for those that had to cut out early, or for those that know somebody who really needs to hear all this information, which was a lot of amazing tips and just drops of information that you might have not already known. This will be posted on Instagram TV. It will also be on my website blog. So please take a listen in. So yeah. And